Tonight, bracing for catastrophe in California. Emergency crews in Orange County scrambled to contain a toxic chemical crisis.
I'm Lana Zach at Incident Command in Los Alamitos. 50,000 people have been evacuated. Officials here fearing an uncontrollable leak or an explosion.
Also tonight, straight ahead, President Trump hails progress to reopen the strategic waterway that's pumped up fuel prices.
I'm Imtiaz Taib in Tel Aviv. Why Israel has reservations about this proposed deal, even as negotiations intensify between Washington and Tehran to end the war.
Aerial assault. Russian missiles and drones smash into Ukraine's capital, sparking fires and hours of explosions. The country's president calling the Kremlin's use of a hypersonic missile deranged. Shots fired outside the White House. Our reporter nearby.
I'm Natalie Brand near the scene of the shooting with new details about what happened and how it's renewed security concerns at the White House.
A shocking collision in the sky over Austria. This paraglider hit by a small plane. How they survived. Dangerous storms. In Florida, this bouncy slide sent flying. Landspouts twisting in Texas. The forecast straight ahead. All that plus the making of a memorial.
I'm Charlie D'Agata in Fort Montgomery, New York, where a towering memorial to America's fallen patriots is growing by the day, stone by stone.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Sunday. We begin with the latest from that chemical crisis in Southern California. Tonight, officials say an industrial tank containing about 7,000 gallons of highly flammable and toxic chemicals appears to have cracked. Experts say that could mean a rupture or catastrophic explosion may be averted. Thousands have been evacuated from several communities in Orange County, and this map shows the projected blast zone. CBS's Lana Zach has been covering this story for us and is at the Incident Command Center with the very latest. Lana.
Hi there, Jerika. Yes, the officials here are telling me that in a good sign, they're actually starting to move some first responders in, but as a sign of just how dangerous it still is, they are limited to no more than 6 people at a time. As this chemical tank continues to smolder, firefighters are racing against the clock and bracing for what could be a catastrophic explosion. And the worst case scenario is still possible, that tank could blow, the tanks next to it would then blow.
That is still on the table.
Residents remain on edge, 50,000 forced out of their homes in the city of Garden Grove. The sudden evacuation has overwhelmed hotels and shelters.
We heard sirens, helicopters, and the Amber Alert.
Jackie Esquera and her 7-year-old son Kyle live just 1 block from the GKN Aerospace Center.
Very stressful, yes. I can't sleep at night.
The failing tank that threatens to explode holds 7,000 liquid gallons of methyl methylcrylate. The worst possibility, an explosion. The second worst, a toxic leak. But today, some positive news.
There could be a crack on the top.
Seeing a crack in the tank in this case is a positive development?
It actually is, because if we see a crack, that's going to tell us that the pressurization that we were concerned with might not be there.
The EPA says despite the crack, there are no signs of a toxic leak. Today, GKN issued a statement from its headquarters in the UK saying, "We are acutely aware of the uncertainty this incident is causing and sincerely apologize for the ongoing disruption to the local community." What are your worries now?
My job. I already lost 2 days of work. I'm a single parent.
Now, GKN Aerospace has previously paid more than $1 million in reported environmental penalties, and already there have been 2 class action lawsuits that have been filed for this incident. Jerika?
Lana Zach for us tonight. Thank you. Tonight, details are emerging of the agreement that could wind down the Iran war. In a social post today, President Trump wrote, "If I make a deal with Iran, it will be a good and proper one." He added, "I don't make bad deals." The agreement would reopen the Strait of Hormuz, vital to the flow of the world's oil supply. Its closure has sent gas prices soaring. Today, prices averaging $4.51 a gallon. That's up $1.52 since the war started nearly 3 months ago. Tonight, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he and President Trump remain united on preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. CBS's MTS Tayeb is in Tel Aviv with the very latest on that. MTS.
Jarika, good evening. Although U.S. and Iranian negotiators have agreed to broad principles of a deal, including on several of the thorniest of issues that divide the bitter rivals, President Trump cautions the White House will not be rushing into signing any agreement.
The future of the Strait of Hormuz is one of the biggest points of contention between the U.S. and Iran after Tehran effectively shut the waterway since the start of the war, and the White House retaliated by imposing its own blockade, causing gas prices to soar. In a Truth Social post today, President Trump said, quote, "The blockade will remain in full force and effect until an agreement is reached, certified, and signed." But a senior Trump administration official told CBS News considerable progress has been made on the opening of the strait, so too on Iran's nuclear program, including its large stockpiles of highly enriched uranium, with the same official saying there's, quote, "no dispute that the stockpiled material would be disposed of. It's a question of how." Tonight, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian said his country did not want the bomb. "We are now ready to reassure the world that we are not seeking nuclear weapons," he said. But Pezeshkian also lashed out at Israel, calling it a, quote, "destabilizing force in the region." Tehran insists Israel's war in Lebanon be part of any deal. Despite a ceasefire, the Israeli military's confrontation with the Iranian proxy group Hezbollah has been devastating. At least 3,100 people have been killed in Lebanon since March, including 210 children, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry. In a post on X, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said President Trump, quote, "reaffirmed Israel's right to defend itself against threats on every front, including Lebanon," which has widely been interpreted as Israel would continue to carry out strikes there, regardless of Tehran's objections.
And tonight, U.S. officials say they believe Iran's new supreme leader has approved the broad template for a draft deal, but that any agreement would lead to further negotiations, Jarika, rather than a final settlement.
MTS Tayeb in Tel Aviv, thank you. Tonight, several European leaders are condemning Russia after it attacked Ukraine with hypersonic ballistic missile. Germany's chancellor called it a, quote, "reckless escalation." It happened overnight during an intense assault that targeted the capital, Kyiv. Several people were killed and wounded. CBS's Lee Canary at our London bureau has been following that development. Lee.
Good evening, Jarika. Russia's President Vladimir Putin promised revenge, and last night it appears he delivered. It was one of the worst nights in the 4-year war in Ukraine's capital. Hundreds of missiles, some making their way through Ukraine's air defense systems, this one appearing to release submunitions that maximize damage. Among the barrage was Russia's Oreshnik missile. At hypersonic speed, it crashes in the blink of an eye. It's believed to be capable of carrying nuclear warheads and difficult to intercept. Whole buildings were left destroyed, like this mall. Apartment blocks, government buildings, and a water supply facility were also hit. Russia said the attack was retaliation following Ukrainian strikes on a student dorm last week that killed 21. Ukraine denied responsibility, saying they'd struck an elite drone command unit in the area. Ukraine's President Zelensky called on the United States and Europe to act. In recent months, he's appealed for more air defense systems, including American-made Patriot missiles. Stockpiles are under growing strain, Jarika, with the war in the Middle East and here in Europe.
Lee Canary in London, thank you. There are new details after the latest incident of shots fired near President Trump's location. It happened Saturday, right before we came on air near the White House. CBS's Natalie Brand is there for us tonight. Natalie.
Good evening, Jarika. This latest shooting comes 1 month after the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting, and it is the second time in recent weeks when shots fired in the area has put the White House on lockdown.
Bullet holes in office buildings on Pennsylvania Avenue and shattered glass at a museum across from the White House, all in a busy tourist area just across from the Secret Service checkpoint.
It was scary.
The gunshot sent passers-by scrambling, as well as journalists at the White House. Our Aaron Navarro was preparing for last night's broadcast when he reported hearing around 20 shots.
It's weakening.
Police say the suspected gunman, identified as 21-year-old Nasser Best, fired several shots toward the Secret Service booth before multiple officers returned fire. He died later at the hospital. Law enforcement sources say a male bystander was also struck and is said to be in serious but stable condition. Court records show Best tried to gain entry to the White House last July and was sent to a psychiatric ward for mental health issues.
The reality is we have more mental health issues than we ever have had in our history.
New Jersey Republican Jeff Van Drew says this latest incident makes the case for added security.
The White House needs to be protected.
President Trump posting on social media about the incident says it shows how important it is for presidents to get the most safe and secure space of its kind ever built. He's referencing his ballroom and what he says will be the security complex underneath. Jerika?
Natalie Brand at the White House, turning to the weather and a stormy start to the holiday weekend. In Dade County, Florida, strong winds sent this bounce slide flying, seemingly horrifying this homeowner. And take a look at this, a landspout twisting in the town of Shallow Water, Texas, that's north of Lubbock. CBS News meteorologist Andrew Kozak has more on those landspouts and your forecast. Andrew.
Yeah, Jerika, imagine being woken up in the middle of the night, going outside and seeing what we just showed you. Well, it happened yesterday in the wee hours of the morning for places like Lubbock, over toward Hockley and Yoakum counties as well, as these thunderstorms came through. Now, this is all part of a system that has produced severe weather, but these were landspouts, not tornadoes. There is a little bit of a difference. A tornado usually comes from a rotating supercell thunderstorm, strong gusty winds, damaging, of course, and comes down from the cloud, while a landspout is much weaker and forms from rotating winds on the ground. We saw the landspouts. We will, of course, continue to monitor these storms, but we're likely going to see less of a tornado threat as we head into the next few days and more of a heavy rain and potential flooding threat for the deep south and the mid-Atlantic as these storms now start to move across the east. An additional 1 to 2 inches of rain possible before the holiday weekend is up. So rain there for your Memorial Day, hot and dry for the Midwest, thunderstorms for the deep south, and rain starts to move back into the Pacific Northwest by Monday afternoon. Jerika?
Andrew Kozak, thanks so much. This weekend, a paraglider escaped death after a sky-high collision. Take a look at this. It happened over the Austrian Alps. Watch this as a single-engine Cessna suddenly appears. The plane slices the paraglider's canopy apart, sending her spinning out of control. At first, the woman struggles to open her emergency parachute, but then she pulls it. Remarkably, a safe landing followed for both the paraglider and the plane. Yeah, that could have been really bad. Today in the nation's capital, a thundering tribute to fallen U.S. service members. Thousands of motorcyclists took part in Rolling to Remember, the annual ride from the Pentagon to the National Mall. Riders aim to raise awareness for those lost to war, as well as veterans' issues, including suicide. Straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, tributes to Kyle Busch in the racing capital of the world. But first, this story.
I'm Chanel Call in New York with this summer's costly start, from gas to groceries. What this means for you, coming up on the CBS Weekend News.
The Memorial Day weekend is the symbolic start of summer, and a lot of Americans are on the move. But this year, traveling will cost you more. CBS's Chanel Call is in New York City with all the details. Chanel, good evening.
Jerika, it's an expensive start to the summer travel season, with everything from gas to groceries costing you more this year. Many Americans will be forced to make some tough choices. Families stocking up for Memorial Day barbecues this weekend are feeling the heat.
All of the prices shock me, just that they seem to go up every single time I go to the grocery store.
Americans now paying 20% more for food than 4 years ago. Inflation rose nearly 1% this month, mainly due to higher gas prices.
I don't even fill it up all the way anymore. Yeah, just because prices are so expensive.
The war with Iran has raised the cost of fuel by 41%. The highest price in California, an average of $6.11 a gallon. The lowest in Indiana at $3.93.
I think the trajectory that we're on, we could see the national average at $5 at some point in June.
All of it hitting Americans hard. The University of Michigan Sentiment Survey finds consumer sentiment dropped to its lowest level on record in May. Americans feel worse than they did during wars, 9/11, and even the COVID-19 pandemic. Recent polling from CBS News shows 77% of respondents said their income is not keeping up with inflation. Despite bad sentiment, Wall Street is soaring. All major indexes have reached or are nearing record highs. A starkly different picture from what many Americans say they're feeling.
We just have to stay focused on working and continue to make the income from our family and keep a roof over our head.
And travel experts say over the course of this 4-day holiday stretch, Americans will collectively spend $2 billion more on gas this year than last year. Jerika?
Chanel Call in New York, thank you. Still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, Star Wars makes a comeback, but was the Force with the new movie at theaters?
We're protecting everything the rebellion fought for.
Good luck. You're gonna need it.
Star Wars is back on the big screen, topping the weekend box office. The Mandalorian and Grogu is the first new film in the series in 7 years. It took in $82 million at theaters in North America through today. The horror hit Obsession and Michael round out the top 3. This is auto racing's biggest weekend, and today we saw new tributes honoring NASCAR driver Kyle Busch after his sudden death this past week. At the Indianapolis 500 on lap 18, the scoring pylon on the track displayed his name, as you see there. And at Charlotte Motor Speedway over the weekend, Busch's car arrived. His family says the 41-year-old died from complications of pneumonia that led to sepsis. Next on the CBS Weekend News, a mountaintop memorial that's rising to honor the fallen. But first, a look back at this day in history.
A new and controversial chapter in aviation history opened today. 2 Concorde passenger jets left London and Paris and in under 4 hours streaked faster than sound almost 4,000 miles across the Atlantic.
We end tonight on this Memorial Day weekend in New York's Hudson Valley. On top of a small mountain, a monument is rising, stone by stone. In tonight's Weekend Journal, CBS's Charlie D'Agata made the hike to show us why.
It's a beautiful trail.
A lot of groups come out and help keep it up.
Lieutenant Colonel John Novoychuk has lost count of the times he's climbed this trail just south of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point.
It's definitely in the high hundreds.
High hundreds?
Yeah.
Always carrying that flag, often carrying something else, too. A stone bearing the name of a fallen hero. This is the Trail of the Fallen. A combat veteran with multiple deployments in Afghanistan and Iraq, Novoychuk has lost many close friends. This journey honors them.
There's something about doing hard things together to achieve an objective, and you get to the top. Because what you realize is people don't get up there by themselves.
Up there now stands a towering memorial to America's fallen patriots. Thousands of rocks stacked 10 feet high and counting. Some so big, they were helicoptered to the top. The summit offers stunning views of New York's Hudson River and Valley.
It's hard to understand until you come over that ridge line right over there, and you see the flags, and you see this just, at least for me, it hits me that everything that's here is representing someone who was willing to sacrifice for us.
Up here, too, 450-pound granite benches remembering First Lieutenant Darren Hidalgo, killed in Afghanistan, and Major Thomas T.K. Kennedy, killed by a Taliban suicide bomber, each painstakingly carried up by Cadet Company F2. It was Kennedy's death that inspired Novoychuk's then 12-year-old son, Grant, to formalize the trail with an Eagle Scout project, a tribute to the man he called Uncle Tommy.
It's definitely a consequential moment that I look back on my life and a
moment to grow.
Exactly.
I think you'd be proud, right?
I would hope so. I think it's definitely a mission to serve others and be there for others.
My colleagues and I at CBS News have lost friends in a war zone, too. Cameraman Paul Douglas and soundman James Brolin, embedded with U.S. troops in Baghdad in 2006, killed by a car bomb on Memorial Day. We carried their rocks up, paying tribute to their sacrifice, too. You'll not be forgotten. Laying beside them, thousands more names Americans who gave their lives in service to their country. Charlie Daggett of CBS News, Fort Montgomery, New York.
And that is the CBS Weekend News for this Sunday. We thank you so much for watching. I'm Jerika Duncan in New York. Have a great week.